Behold, China unveils first Mars photos from Zhurong rover. China is only the second nation to successfully soft land on Mars. And if you scroll down, you can see the photo. This is the top of the rover and the surface of Mars behind. The rover is kind of perched on top of the lander, and this is the ramp that it'll go down before beginning to explore the surface of Mars. And this is an incredible achievement for China. This is the first time they've tried this. And in a previous video, I covered NASA's mission to Mars. Both of these missions were launched around the same time because there's a specific launch window that opens every couple of years. And if a nation has a mission to Mars, that's when they will send it. So NASA landed first, and then China successfully landed afterwards. I was curious about the West's reaction, the public reaction of the West. And I went to Twitter, and actually I went to Twitter because I wanted to see if any of the photos popped up, and this was the first tweet that I saw with the photos. And if we scroll down and we look at the comments, they're actually more or less positive, I would say, which I was surprised and kind of happy with. But then there were comments like this. Okay, landing on Mars is really tough, and the Chinese are to be congratulated on the accomplishment, but how much of the technology on that lander was taken from developments by US companies? We will probably never know. And 46 likes. It kind of says something there. And where are they getting this idea from? This isn't an idea they're arriving on their own through deep research of how China researches, develops, and sends missions out to Mars. They're getting this from the US government and its propaganda war against China. This notion that any achievement China makes must have been the result of stealing intellectual property from America, which is also extremely ironic. Why is that? Because America's own space program is not the work of just Americans. It was actually built on Nazi rocket scientists brought over from Germany after World War II. They laid the groundwork for NASA's spaceflight program and also the military's ballistic missile programs. If you don't believe me, go to NASA's own website, Biography of Wernher von Braun. They talk about the V-2 ballistic missile. This was a missile he developed, and it was used by Nazi Germany to attack British cities. And they admit that the V-2 was assembled in a plant near a concentration camp, and it used slave labor. They also admit that von Braun was a member of the Nazi Party and an SS officer, and that they brought him over to the United States through Project Paperclip, and he laid the groundwork for all of these launch systems, including the Saturn V, which eventually sent Americans to the moon. So America's greatest achievement in spaceflight was built on the groundwork laid by a Nazi rocket scientist. And so you can see why it's ironic that they're saying this about China. Now, I want to kind of point out where this kind of toxic perspective is coming from. This is U.S. Embassy in Georgia. This is a post titled, "How the Chinese Communist Party Steals Science." And they're talking about this conspiracy theory about how China's mobilizing its entire society to modernize its military, and they're hacking foreign companies, co-opting Chinese nationals, luring foreign experts, and hiding military affiliations to accomplish all of this. And this is just a vignette of a much larger propaganda war. You might remember this U.S. strategic framework for the Indo-Pacific. This is from the Trump White House archives. And if you go to page 6, it says, "Build an international consensus that China's industrial policies and unfair trading practices are damaging the global trading system." And this is just what the U.S. is trying to do to stop China's economic rise and China from surpassing the United States economically. This is April 2021, U.S. to offer millions in new funds to take on China. So this is just a continuation of what we just saw from that Trump era paper. And here we have The U.S. Agency for Global Media will have new funds to support independent journalism to counter the Chinese Communist Party. Foreign journalists will be funded and trained to help expose and counter false CCP narratives, specifically about the negative impact of the Belt and Road Initiative. So this is about attacking and undermining China's accomplishments and trying to sabotage and undermine future accomplishments. Is it really hard to believe that China is able to achieve all of these things? Think about it. It's got the largest population on Earth, plenty of resources. They have been working on modernizing their infrastructure for decades now. They have the largest high-speed rail network on Earth. The US doesn't have a single kilometer of high-speed rail anywhere within their borders. Is it really hard to believe that China is able to accomplish these things and mostly on their own? And to further support that argument, let's look at this Forbes article. This is Western media, not Chinese state media. The countries with the most STEM graduates. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Since the turn of the century, China has experienced a revolution in third-level education. It has outstripped both the United States and Europe in graduate numbers. And as of 2016, it was building the equivalent of nearly one university per week. And come down and check this graphic out. By far, China is producing more STEM graduates than any other nation on Earth. No nation in the West comes even close, not even the United States. So why is it so hard to believe that Chinese people with this massive population, this huge number of STEM graduates, these resources, modern infrastructure, why is it so hard to believe they're capable of these sort of achievements? Which means US foreign policy and this narrative that they've created is inherently racist, because what it's saying is that despite all of the obvious advantages China has, Chinese people are simply inferior to Americans, and the only way they're able to achieve anything of any sort of greatness is by stealing it from America. So you can see the problem with this narrative, why it's so wrong, and why it's concerning to see average Americans or average Westerners repeating this highly toxic narrative. So I just wanted to point out China's great achievement landing on Mars. And I also wanted to kind of talk about this narrative that the US is using to try to belittle and undermine these achievements. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share it. Think about subscribing. It's free to do and it helps the channel grow. Check the video description for the links discussed in this video, as well as for ways you can help support my work, like by becoming a Patreon member, where you can help support my work month to month, and you also get access to extra content. And to everyone who is helping me already, thank you so much. I could not do this without your support. And as always, thank you for watching.